Hello and welcome to episode 74 of the How to Survive podcast. My name is Chris and I'm slightly ill. This week we're covering Passengers, the sci-fi blockbuster starring Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence. Next week we are covering another blockbuster, Assassin's Creed. It is a terrible movie. Don't bother go and watch it. Just listen to the podcast. If you've got any thoughts on either of those films, God forbid you've got any thoughts on Assassin's Creed, email in howtosurviveshow@gmail.com or tweet us at HowToSurvivePod. On with the show.
We boarded the Avalon with a destination. 120 years hibernation means we'll wake up in a new century on a new planet. But a year ago, everything changed.
Hello? Anybody here?
Hello? Do you know what's going on? Nobody else is awake.
I think something went wrong with the hibernation pods. We woke up too soon. 9 years too soon.
This can't be happening. We have to go back to sleep.
We can't.
Aurora, we love you!
Something's wrong. Something big.
What do we do now?
Do you trust me?
Hello and welcome to episode 74 of the How to Survive podcast. My name, believe it or not, is Chris. Joining me is Joe. As you might hear, I am slightly under the weather. I've caught a New Year's bug.
The Millennium Bug.
The Millennium Bug, yeah.
Slow delay.
Yeah, exactly. It's ravaging its way through my systems, shutting them down one by one, and eventually is going to cause a catastrophic overall failure unless two people inside me who have been woken up can find a way to fix me. Because this week, of course, Joe, we're talking about the hit blockbuster Christmas sci-fi adventure rom-com that is Passengers.
I think that analogy you made was as strained as your voice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well,
How are you anyway? Other than being hoarse.
I'm all right. Yeah. How was your Christmas and New Year? This is obviously we've released an episode this year.
Yeah.
This is the first recording session we've done in 2017.
Yes, exactly.
Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was very good. Relaxed family stuff. Spent the New Year period in Germany.
Good.
Watching the fireworks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I spent the New Year period in bed.
Yeah.
With a high fever.
Okay.
Wishing I was dead.
Yeah.
So just like every year.
Yeah. Great start to 2017 for you then.
Yes. And so, yeah, Passengers, it's still in the cinema. If you haven't seen it yet, go seek it out. And we'll roll on as ever. Nothing changes, Joe, with a recap of the plot.
Are you up to it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if there's one thing that is great for a chest infection, it's speaking at length.
Yeah.
And with affected clarity.
Yeah.
So here we go. Passengers. The Starship Avalon travels to Homestead 2, a distant habitable world, carrying passengers searching for a new life. As the journey takes 120 years, the passengers are in hibernation pods.
Chris, it sounds like you're struggling a
Okay,
bit.
yeah, fine.
Should I take over?
Yeah, all right.
Okay. With Earth vastly overcrowded, the Starship Avalon travels to Homestead 2, a distant, habitable world, carrying passengers searching for a new life. As the journey takes 120 years, the passengers are in hibernation pods. A meteorite hits the Avalon, setting in motion a string of system failures, one of which culminates in Jim Preston, one of the passengers, waking up early. 90 years too early, in fact. Unable to find a way to re-enter hibernation or alert anyone to his plight, Jim makes the most of the Avalon's luxury amenities, before falling into a deep depression as a result of his loneliness. Following a year of isolation, with only the robot bartender Arthur for company, Jim notices Aurora Lane, a beautiful passenger who is still in hibernation, much like the other 4,999. And he begins to consider waking her up for company. Despite a period of deliberation on the morality of essentially murdering her, Jim eventually succumbs to temptation and wakes her up by damaging her hibernation pod. Once she's awake, Aurora goes through many of the same stages of grief at her situation as Jim did, before settling into a somewhat comfortable life on board the Avalon. Aurora also begins a romantic relationship with Jim, who neglects to tell her what a creep he was.
Yeah.
And is.
Yeah. Once a creep, always a creep.
Yeah, that's
especially in the context of
space travel
and waking someone up to have sex with them because you fancy them.
Yeah, and also committing them to death in that sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All is well until
just so we're clear on that.
Yeah. All is well until Arthur accidentally reveals that Jim was looking forward to meeting Aurora. Aurora realizes that Jim woke her intentionally and isolates herself from him completely. Meanwhile, many of the ship's systems begin failing, and a crew member, Chief Gus Mancuso, wakes up early when his hibernation pod also fails. He allows Jim and Aurora access to the ship's bridge and medical facilities, revealing that the meteorite impact has caused a chain reaction of system failures, which will eventually destroy the ship.
Yeah.
The ship's auto dock, which is a medical pod in the crew's quarters, reveals that Gus is deathly ill, a result of his hibernation pod malfunctioning, and he immediately dies.
Yeah, it malfunctioned in a different way to Jim's, obviously. It's not just that Jim is like hardy enough to shake it off.
No.
I think basically what they say is that when you see Jim being woken up, there's like needles and things prodding into him, presumably giving him serums and things. And I assume that basically those things didn't happen for Gus.
Yeah.
And so he's just like rotting on the inside.
Bad way to go.
Yeah.
Despite their ongoing animosity because Jim is a creep and a murderer, Aurora and Jim team up to save the ship and the sleeping passengers. They find the meteorite and seal the hole it created, but discover it has damaged the computer which controls the ship's reactor. Unless the ship's reactor is manually vented from a door on the ship's exterior, it will overload and destroy the Avalon and everyone on it.
It's a fucking nightmare, isn't it?
It really is. Aurora assists Jim while admitting she is terrified of living on the ship alone. Aurora, from inside the ship, and Jim outside of it, successfully vent the reactor. However, Jim's tether breaks loose and his damaged spacesuit loses oxygen. Aurora retrieves the seemingly dead Jim, but takes him to the auto dock, which resuscitates him. That was lucky.
Yeah.
Jim later learns that the auto dock can re-hibernate Aurora. However, she realizes that this would mean never seeing Jim again. So she decides to stay unhibernated and essentially live her life with Jim.
Yeah.
88 years later, the crew of the Avalon wake up to discover the main concourse of the vessel filled with lush vegetation and a log cabin, evidence of Jim and Aura's life together.
Aurora's life together.
What did I say?
Aura.
Well, that's neither here nor there. Of course, we're going to talk about how we'd survive in the movie. But first, let's talk through what we didn't like about it, and everything we need to know about how we would survive. Chris, what did you think of Passengers, please?
Well, I think that there needs to be a sort of a new term or a new sort of genre created for films that are simultaneously pretty good, but also like completely shit, which is what I think Passengers is.
Yeah.
Like there are elements of it that are quite, fun, interesting. In places it's a relatively entertaining sort of romp, sci-fi romp, and it has sort of elements of The Martian. I think it's quite a similar film to The Martian.
It reminded me a bit of Moon as well.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
but I mean, only because of the things that happen.
But a man is. Yeah. But like also, I think just parts of it had me like rolling my eyes to such a huge extent. Like a lot of Aurora's lines, especially when Jim's watching like the sort of dating video introduction things.
Yeah. So at this point, he hasn't decided to wake her up.
Yeah, he's seen her.
Yeah.
And he's
unconscious.
And he's like, oh, she looks sexy. So I better look her up on the ship system and do some sort of light internet stalking.
Yeah.
And like finds all these videos where it's like, Aurora's like, oh, I guess I'm a bit of a creative person. And it's like watching Jennifer Lawrence be interviewed, basically.
Yeah.
And exactly the same personality.
Yep. But the thing is, right, like the reason he woke her up is to have sex with her because he's lonely.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, should we just get into it?
Yeah. That is why. And I think like putting this like you call it the dating video. It's actually like a friend Facebook video where you'd be like, oh hi, I'm just going to make new friends and I'm looking to go here to try new things.
Yeah, I'm interested in books and the great outdoors.
But that's a very flimsy way of just covering what is essentially he's attracted to her.
Yeah,
and it's not unfair to be attracted to Jennifer Lawrence.
No. In
the same way, it's not unfair to be attracted to Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
they're both good-looking people.
Can I pitch to you, like, imagine this film opens with Jennifer Lawrence waking up, and then we are in the same position as her as the audience.
Yeah.
So we learn about the ship and all that sort of thing. It's damaged or whatever. Yeah. Things are going wrong. You can't go back to sleep, and you have all the tragedy. Then she falls in love with Chris Pratt. You get all the romance, and then it turns out that he woke her up intentionally, and that's a horror movie. Yeah. Like you could have that as a horror movie. Maybe he's done that like dozens of times before as well. Yeah. So like he woke up like 30 years ago, and he just keeps like going around the ship, just picking a fit woman to shag and then dispose of.
Vents them into space.
Well, yeah, whatever. That could be a horror movie with only the very slightest of changes.
Yeah.
So if that is the core like moral dilemma on which your romantic drama like pivots, then you're in trouble, I think. Yeah. Because it's an incredibly creepy thing to do, and I don't think the film ever really like justifies it. Or
well, I guess the way that they try and get around it, right? They try and satisfy the issue is by basically he sacrifices himself to save her.
Yes.
And that in a sense that brings some sort of karmic retribution.
I guess so.
But then it doesn't because he survives.
Exactly, yeah. So he gets everything that he wanted.
Yeah.
So it's like basically like it's basically like saying you can do awful, heinous things.
Yeah.
Because you fancy women, as long as you pay lip service to doing a good thing.
Yeah.
Even though the consequences for you at the end of the day are nil.
Would you say that this is the equivalent, like on the cosmic scale, of like cheating on someone and then buying them flowers?
Yeah, well, it sort of is.
It's like, oh, I mean, I've murdered you, but I risked my life, so...
Like, the film tries to justify it, I think, by saying, oh, like, if, as it turns out, if you hadn't woken me up, then everyone would have been dead, right? Like, you know, we all would have died because there's no way you could fix the ship on your own.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but there's no... That's an accident. That's like... that he still did it for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
And he's still like morally compromised as a character because of that. And like, I think Jim is likable. Like there's a sort of half-hour period before Jennifer Lawrence appears where he's quite likable, and you see him descending into depression, and it's quite well done, and it's quite affecting, and you know, emotional. There's the scene which I think is quite well done where he stands in the airlock, like with his hand on the release handle.
Yeah, thinking whether he should blow himself into space.
Yeah, exactly. That stuff's all like quite well done.
Yeah.
But just that it still can't that moral thing of waking up a woman that you fancy is just something that you can never, like the film can never row back from.
Would you, if he'd say done the same thing, but he'd been talking about it, thinking about going out of his mind, thinking, should I wake her up? Should I wake her up? And he did it, but he got like blind drunk, and he was out of his mind with like madness at this point, and he did it in like a moment of like impulse. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's even worse in some ways, because at least like in this film, it's like he's weak. Yeah, he's doing it out of weakness, and like weakness is a trait that you can sort of empathize with.
Right. Like
you can put yourself in that position and go, oh, like imagine being on your own for a year.
Yeah.
It would be so lonely. Everyone would be weak enough to consider doing this. Whereas, he got really drunk. He's like, that's like, adds another layer to the sort of abusive male like thing, that's a dynamic that's going on.
Yeah. Good point and well made.
And I should say that I only think Jim is likable before he wakes up Aurora. And I think after that, the bits where he's sort of like looking at her like doe-eyed become really creepy. Like there's a scene where she's swimming. That's another thing that doesn't help it, is the fact that Jennifer Lawrence spends probably a third of the time she's on screen in that swimsuit.
Yeah.
And like, you know, she's a very good looking woman.
Right.
But like the context of the film makes her like this product that Chris Pratt has, or that Jim has like selected like out of a vending machine. And so whenever you see her in a swimsuit or whatever, it's like, oh, hasn't Chris Pratt got amazing taste in like the women that he wakes up to murder? Like, it's bizarre. And then there's even a scene where she's swimming and like he like looks around the corner in a sort of like cutesy sort of dopey Chris Pratt way, and she like meets his gaze and it's all like you know, like caught you looking and all that sort of thing. And you just think like you're a murderer.
Yeah.
You like, murdered this woman.
If it's like in a misery situation, if she was his prisoner, which essentially she is, because he knows the lay of the land better than she does. Yeah. And he was like in one of the rooms and he just like stood in the doorway looking at her. You'd be like, that's fucking creepy as fuck.
Yeah. Not to mention the bit where after it's revealed to her what he did, he like fucking does things like take control of the ship's tannoy system to like shout at her, and she's like, wherever she is in the ship, he's just like going, I'm so sorry, and she like literally running away from it, and she can't get away from it.
God, I'll tell you, Chris, who did think he was justified in what he did. Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne. Yeah, he was like, he showed up, didn't he? Lawrence Fishburne. Yeah, and Morpheus. Yeah, Furious Styles. Yeah, from Boys in the Hood. Yeah. The magical Negro. Yeah. And I'm not saying that because I'm a racist, Chris. It's a trope from films. The magical Negro. This is from Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. The magical Negro is a supporting stock character in American cinema who is portrayed as coming to the aid of the film's white protagonists. Yeah. Which is
exactly what happens. Yeah. Yeah, and then dispensed with as soon as he's communicated.
Yeah, it's like show up, give us the keys to the ship.
Yeah, and then die. Please. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you are no longer useful to us.
Does he have like a line about, you got to look after each other or something like that? And you're like, you're fucking advocating a like sexually violent man, basically. Yeah.
He's like, did you wake her up? Yeah. Does she know you woke her up? Yeah. Yeah. She'll come round, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry about bitches.
Yeah. And he all but says like, yeah, I'd tap that.
I know, yeah. Like, what you should be saying is, look, she's a fine-looking woman.
What you've done is murdered someone.
Yeah, what you've done
I'm going to lock you in a brick.
Unforgivable. Yeah. I don't care if I would rather this ship was destroyed than you live another second on this ship.
God.
Well, also, let's not forget, as well as Lawrence Fishburne and Michael Sheen, the fifth Build cast member. That's Tony Garcia.
The voice of the ship, wasn't it?
No, he's the Admiral, Joe.
Who opens
the door at the end of the film. Fifth billing.
I was thinking there's only four.
Tony Garcia. He's a like relatively respected actor. Literally popping up for a 5-second shot.
What's he been in?
He's in like the Ocean's 11 movies. He's in a lot of sort of, you know, like 90s, early 2000s American cinema.
Right. And this is what he's been reduced to.
Well, I don't know. Like, how much do you think he gets paid for literally one shot?
It probably
it's him in a fake beard in a uniform, and he just opens the door and goes, "Oh, someone's fucking built a meadow in my ship."
I would say he probably gets enough to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He'll never have to work again. So, on the basis of what you said earlier, that this is a film that is decent but ultimately quite forgettable. Yeah. Here is a list of 2014 movies. I thought I'll go back a few years. Right. Because, you know, we've had the podcast for a couple of years now. So any movie that's come out in that time basically is going to be fresh.
Yeah, we've covered, So
2014, I see you've probably seen these films, and I would say that these are all decent, but you're never going to watch them again.
Yeah, okay.
And you don't care about them.
That's a good way of describing it, yeah.
Boyhood?
I haven't seen it.
Right. It's decent, but you'd never watch it.
Okay,
it's not even that good. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. Do you know what? I watched that recently again. but that was because I was deathly ill.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the sort of
It's
film
the
it
only
is.
thing you could handle when you were ill.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bright colours.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Godzilla.
That's not even a decent film.
No,
But yeah.
it's a film.
Yeah.
Unbroken. You seen that?
No, but I know that it's that sort of worthy,
Yeah.
like war drama.
It's
prisoner of
basically
war drama.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Right.
I've seen the trailer for Hacksaw Ridge coming out soon.
Yeah.
It looks very similar. And Fury.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I watched it recently when I was ill. Yeah.
It's another film with problematic love scene.
Yes, that is a deeply troubling
Yeah.
encounter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Watched that bit with my mum. So
Yeah.
good.
So I believe before we saw the film,
Yeah.
you'd actually read the script.
Yeah. So
You're a consultant in that capacity?
that's right. Yeah. If you stay right to the end of the credits. No, it was one of these scripts that was on the Hollywood blacklist, which is a thing that gets released every year, which is a collection of what people deem the best unproduced scripts or screenplays.
Okay.
And so Passengers has been kicking around for a while, and sometimes I read these scripts just because I'm sort of interested. And I read the script for it, and remember thinking as I was reading it how weird and creepy the whole wake people up, waking Jennifer Lawrence up angle was. Not that she's called Jennifer Lawrence in the screenplay, but you know what I mean. And I was concerned about that at the time. But in the original version, the ship reaches a point where after they fix the reactor, the system resets, and the ship responds to that by thinking it's about to land. And so what it does is begins venting all of the sleeping pods. And so all of the sleeping pods get one by one fired out into space. And despite their best efforts, they're not able to stop this. And so what happens is that Jim and Aurora are literally the only survivors of the Avalon, because all of the crew and all of the passengers get vented out into space by this bugged computer system, which makes him waking her up like he has actually saved her life.
Right.
Like, again, inadvertently.
Yeah.
Right. But that is the sort of difference. And then after the ship is fixed, they find a store of reproductive materials that have been taken from every one of the passengers. And so the film ends with it arriving on Homestead 2, and the doors open and hundreds of people walk out because they've repopulated the ship with the genetic material of all the people who were on board.
Right.
Which is its own weird, creepy sort of issue, I guess, because you're playing God, but also a much more interesting sort of sci-fi angle on it than
exactly. Yeah.
just sort of, I won't get back in the hibernation pod because I love you.
Yeah, it's a week. It's a week because she's the whole film presumably been I want to go back to sleep.
Yeah,
I've known this guy for a year. He's murdered me. I have literally no reason to stay here.
Yeah,
I did expect when the Admiral opened the doors for there to be children.
Yeah.
But the implication there would be that their children would have to have sex with each other.
Exactly. So I guess that's why they didn't do that. I thought of what I think might be a better ending.
Go on.
Obviously, they find the medical pod that would allow them to go back to sleep. And I thought what would be a good idea is, and this is actually an early How to Survive thing, is that what I would suggest to them is that they should just share the medical pod, right? And so that way they arrive with 45 years, on their, bill, rather than 90.
Right.
So, they have 45 years each. They could do it 5 years at a time or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, the issue is that they'd spend it alone. But a better ending, I think, would be, he goes, here's the pod. We take it in turns, and then we'll both arrive and we can live out, a couple of decades or whatever on Homestead 2 in the life that we wanted. Mm-hmm. And we can do that together. She goes, fine. She gets in the pod. He sets it for 90 years.
Yeah.
And never wakes her up.
And that saved her.
Yeah. And then
he's
that's
redeemed
his.
Himself.
Yeah, he's redeemed himself. She gets the life that she wanted. and he's done it as penance for what he did, right? Another ending, which a lot of people have suggested on the internet, is that Jim dies when he's saving the ship.
Yeah.
And then Aurora's left on the ship alone. And then the final shot of the film is after a long time of her sort of, going through the same things that Jim did, loneliness, deterioration, depression, all that sort of thing. The last shot of the film is her standing over someone's hibernation pod and, deliberating.
Yeah.
And then that's how the film ends.
It's like a chain thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess it's not so much, people redeem themselves. It's like everyone is fallible.
Yeah.
And then it gives it a different moral texture than just it's bad, but also not that bad if you then fall in love with them.
Exactly, yeah. If it's bad unless you get exactly what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What if she was like a lesbian?
That's the good point. Yeah. Or if Chris Pratt's a good looking guy.
Yeah.
If he was a complete uggo and she was like, what the fuck?
If it was John Goodman in 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah. Oh, man. With all that said, Chris.
Yeah.
If you were Aurora or Chris Pratt.
Jim Preston.
Yeah. What would you do to survive the movie?
Well, as I said, I think sharing the medical pod. If you're looking at both of them surviving.
Can they both fit in it?
No. As in one person has 5 years.
Yeah.
The other person has 5 years. I assume they can't both fit in it. Is there not another medical pod on the whole ship?
That's what I was thinking as well.
For 5,000 people, it seems having one is
suboptimal.
Yeah.
Because if a bookcase fell over and
exactly
landed on
three people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because also how does it work? Is it if you've got a broken leg, it's you have to spend a week in there.
Yeah.
Or so two other people with broken legs have got to scream with agony for a month. But yeah, so split it up 5 years at a time or whatever. Yes, you'll have 45 years awake alone, but then you'll have another 20 years or whatever together.
I think that might be a bit ambitious. They're probably 35.
Yeah, early 30s, something like that, yeah.
45 years makes them 80.
Yeah, but it is also the future. And if you assume that life expectancy rises at the same rate,
right,
which is an assumption, to be fair.
Yeah.
But then
they don't exactly seem pleased to be aging, trapped there for 90 years, do they?
That is true. Yeah. Although, they do make it clear that they're going to be dead by the time it arrives. Yeah. So when it does arrive, are they long dead?
Yeah, they must have been. Well, they would have been 120 otherwise. Yeah.
Right. Well, you'd still stand. I mean, you'd be elderly when you arrived.
Yeah.
And also, let's not forget that you'd still have only lived sort of 75 years.
I think the conceit of it is as well that they are both happy to live their lives just together because they love each other so much.
Yeah.
And they left Earth looking for something, and that thing turned out to be each other.
Yeah, exactly. They both left Earth because they felt there was something missing in their lives, and they found it in one another.
So does that change their motivations to say that they should then split up for 45 years at a time?
Probably. Yeah, probably. I mean, it depends. Yeah, I mean, they do survive in one respect in the film, don't they? So, they live their lives together.
Mm.
So, and they build that quaint little fucking log cabin, despite the fact that they live in untold luxury, surrounded by suites to which they have access.
Well,
every whim catered for. Oh no, let's build a little yurt in the fucking fountain.
But it's not that foyer they're in isn't big enough to throw a ball, let alone live.
Yeah, she's able to jog around it in what seems to be a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just really fast.
Maybe.
My first idea is one for Chris Pratt.
Okay.
And that is
Jim Preston, Joe.
Jim Preston.
Yeah.
Just work harder.
Right.
Because, he's there smacking away at the door. He can't get in there. Fine.
Yeah.
You've got access to that auto dock from early on, though.
No. That's in the crew's quarters.
It's not, because I remember he wakes up Aurora.
Sorry. Yeah, no, it is there, yeah.
Mm.
But he can't get to there's the secret menu.
Override.
Yeah.
Which
is like the crew menu, which is like the
and he needs Furious Styles Ex Machina to come along with that.
exactly the golden ticket.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say? Is that sunk your...
it's blown right out of the
All right.
sky.
What are you gonna say?
Work harder at trying to like find solutions, and you would have arrived at it eventually.
But then if he did find that out and then got in the hibernation pod, they all would have died.
That's true.
So basically, this is another film where
It's railroaded.
you can only do the exact things that you're built to do. The exact thing that the character does, or everything goes wrong.
Yeah, it's a victim of determinism. Is this film?
Yeah.
I do have one idea which would have helped there,
Okay.
and I thought this early on. Right, you know, old Arthur.
Yeah.
He's got no legs, is he?
No.
He's on a rail.
Yeah.
I thought like Chris Pratt could basically make Jim Preston. That is, he can make any machine he wants by the looks of it.
Yeah.
So why don't you just make him some legs?
Why would he make Arthur legs?
For a little hobby, get him to walk around. Then he can play basketball with him. He can.
Is he on a rail or is he just on wheels? Oh, maybe he is on a rail. Yeah. But then like he can't teach him how to play basketball, can he?
Why not?
Because he's like he's a bartender computer. That's like trying to teach a chess computer like how to play piano.
You could code it. Yeah, like
it's a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Like the Raspberry Pi in the back of Arthur's head.
Yeah.
He just needs to get into it. Yeah.
I was thinking if you did that when I thought it, and I can't believe that Chris Pratt didn't think it as well.
Yeah.
If he'd done that, then when that alarm's going off and the fire's, you go, Arthur, got a job for you.
Yeah.
Nip out there, will you? Hold that lever down.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't even need the space costume.
Yeah. All you'd need to do is construct an elaborate rail going all the way to the vault door.
Yeah, around the outside of the ship.
Exactly. And do that in the time that it takes.
Well, he'd already have done it. He'd have done it when I thought of it.
He's done it.
He about 6 months in.
Pre-builds it.
Yeah.
For literally every place in and outside of the ship.
Well, just get him on legs. He doesn't need the rail.
Yeah. So Jim Preston, who, when you say he can build anything, like we see him putting like a GoPro on a like Roomba, and that's about it.
No, he fixes he fucks up her computer, her like pod. He fixes his own nearly, but then fucks up one thing.
Okay, great. So two things that he's broken. Yeah, that's your evidence that he can build. Like, he can make anything.
Yeah,
that's foolproof. Yeah. No, definitely just make Arthur some legs. Build some fully functioning robot legs for Arthur.
That would save everyone.
Yeah, or just don't do it to Arthur. Do it to the like weird little Japanese robots or whatever.
French restaurant
that you don't
robots.
care about. Like, yeah.
Imagine you like gave Arthur legs and you were like, Arthur, get out of there and pull that lever, and he was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
fuck you.
Do you know the scene in the like French restaurant where they would turn up with like birthday cake?
Yeah,
and she's like, oh my god, like, how did you know it was my birthday?
Yeah,
it's like every single thing he does is like the ultimate like fucking creepy internet guy like thing.
Yeah,
like, oh, how did you know my birthday? Oh, it's because I looked through the fucking ship's manifest and like watched all of your like dating videos, read all your books.
I've read everything you've ever written. It's like you were speaking to me.
Oh my goodness.
It's misery. It's misery.
It is, yeah. Yeah. It is. So imagine what a right turn the film would have taken if like
he'd broken her leg.
Yeah. Hobbled her.
Oh.
Jesus.
That would have been a better film.
It would have been.
Double down on your
misery in space.
Horrible morals.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on survival?
Yeah. So it seems to me that regardless of their safety record, it's a ridiculous oversight for the Avalon to not have any sort of contingency plan for either the hibernation pods failing or for the ship having any kind of problem.
Yeah.
Because it's basically like, oh, we've built something that works so well, like the first dozen times that we've run it, then we just don't ever need to. Like, did they just build the first hibernation pod?
Yeah.
And it worked. So they're like, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
That will never. That worked the first time. Therefore, it will never ever break.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine a situation in which it would ever go wrong. Like, it just can't happen because this time it didn't. And like the second time it didn't. And like, you know.
A lot of times it didn't.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it can never go wrong.
Like the when he's going, you know, you know, like Arthur's going, but hibernation pods never fail. It never failed. He's like, how am I here then? If that's true. And then Arthur just can't answer it or whatever. It's just like surely that should be setting off some sort of like wake up the captain now, please. Like,
yeah,
you know,
wake up what's his name? Guy
Macuso or whatever. Yeah. That's the name of the magical
Association for the Control of something.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah. So
well, I think that having an internal alarm system.
Yeah, yeah. Like I mean, surely, you know, I mean, firstly, build hibernation pods that can go back in.
Yeah.
Like you can, or you know, have an abundance of those medical bay pod things.
As we know, that ship is making a return journey.
Yeah.
Because Jennifer Lawrence is going to be in it.
Yeah.
Using a hibernation pod.
Yeah.
So
to be the oldest woman who's ever lived.
Yeah. The plan to do that doesn't work because there's no way to go back into hibernation.
Well, you can do it. You just can't do it in the pods themselves. They say like, oh, you remember?
Well, in a factory that like
we had to go to that hotel or whatever.
Yeah, but there's none of that on the ship, is there?
No, but presumably there is in Homestead too.
There isn't because it's an unsettled planet.
They are. They're not the first ones there. They're not the first ones.
Right.
I believe it's already colonised. They're just, you know,
heading out there.
Yeah. Like for a little. It's like going to France or something. You know, there is stuff there already. I think.
Right. Okay. There's gold in them hills.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, like, just surely that it should have those like Medi Docks pods like lining all the way along the hibernation.
Yeah, one for everyone.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, but not as expensive as murdering 5,000 people through negligence.
I'll do a quick fire survival things.
Okay.
About negligence.
Yeah.
Lifeboats.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah.
Putting the furnace exhaust hatch next to the only manual release.
Yeah.
So that you get ionized if you go near it.
Yeah, unless you've got a tin foil tray. Yeah.
Hibernation pods that give you cancer.
Yeah, it's particularly bad luck. How does the ship take off? Like if the crew presumably have to go through all the same hibernation procedure.
Yeah.
Like how does it take off?
Remotely. They do it from Earth.
Right. Why do they need to wake up the crew at the end then?
Because someone's got to land it, isn't it?
Well, why can't they just do that remotely?
I'm not an interstellar travel
Right.
guru.
No. Okay. Sorry. Carry on.
That's it.
Those
Those my quick fires.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. It would.
when Lawrence Fishburne's there talking to the auto doc saying like, how did this give me cancer?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it can't, it's impossible. He's like, well, I have cancer.
I have a million cancers now.
Yeah. I have like a minute to live because I have so much cancer in me. And the machine's like, oh no, that's not possible.
Yeah, I like it. The shit, the Medi Docks bot or whatever it's called needs to sort of learn a bit better bedside manner.
Yeah.
When it's going like, how long do I have? And it's like, end of life preparation should begin now. It's like, what does that mean? Like fucking lie down. Like,
here's some pills that'll make it all better.
Yeah, like end of life preparation could mean, you know, put your affairs in order.
Yeah, right,
like,
I will.
Do your bucket list. Or it could mean like, please stand away from any sharp edges or like fragile objects in the room.
Because you're going down.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about wraps it up, Chris. I feel like if we were to be awoken from hibernation pods together, because I wouldn't wake you up.
Yeah.
That would be murder.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us would be too happy.
No. Can you imagine?
Chris, I could have woken
Well,
up
imagine
anyone.
if he went to wake up. Imagine if he went to wake up Jennifer Lawrence and like was doing all the wires and stuff, and then looked up and it was like just a man or just someone else. He's just the wrong pod.
terribly
He's
bad
like,
luck.
for fuck's sake.
Then you have to kill him.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how it starts.
Oh, that is how it starts traditionally. Next week, we're doing another new movie,
Yeah.
which we've both seen already. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, it's probably best bloody film I've ever seen.
It's kicking off 2017 with a bang.
Yeah.
It opened on the 1st of January 2017.
Did it?
Yeah. It's a blockbuster.
Yeah.
It's starting the year off as it means to go on.
We both saw it in
Yeah.
separate screenings,
Yeah.
and we both had the entire cinema to ourselves.
Correct. Yeah.
The movie is Assassin's Creed
Yeah.
with Michael Fassbender, Marion Cotillard, and Jeremy Irons.
Yeah.
3 amazing actors in a movie.
In a movie. Yeah. If you can call it that.
More next week. If you haven't seen it, don't bother.
Yeah. Don't just listen to it. Just honestly.
You don't need to. It's well, not like sometimes we say like, oh, Friday the 13th Part 9 isn't very good, so don't bother going to see it. It's not for that reason. It's just not a film worth even acknowledging.
Do you know what the problem is as well, Joe? Is that like there will be an Assassin's Creed 2.
Oh yeah,
And we're partly responsible for that now because we've paid money to go and see it.
well,
And then when it comes out, we'll have to do a podcast on it.
yeah,
And that's how we're making the rod for our own back.
yeah. This counts as promotion for their movie.
No, yeah. It's probably the best sort of promotion they're going to have.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, look forward to that next week.
Thanks again for listening. If you have enjoyed it, please leave a review on iTunes or anything you get your podcasts on. 5 stars is, of course, the language of love.
Yeah, and what better way to show love than waking someone up to die?
If you've got any thoughts on how to survive this movie or any movies we cover, email us on HowToSurviveShow@gmail.com, or you can get in touch with us on Twitter @HowToSurvivePod.
Yes.
And if you've got any friends who you love so much, go wake them up and tell them about the How to Survive podcast. Because, we need all the survivors we can get as we mount our army of survival
warriors against the Templars.
See you next week. And
What? There are no quotes from Passengers.
no, it's an unquotable film. There's a part when like Lawrence Fishburne's dying, and this is the bit. Like you said, you mentioned some parts where you roll your eyes.
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne's dying, and he's like put his like dress
Yeah,
uniform on,
his dress.
and he's looking out the window at the stars, and he says, "How do I look?" And Jennifer Lawrence, like in real life, she would looked at Chris Pratt like, "Oof, God, this guy looks awful," right? But she goes, "You look magnificent."
Yeah.
Fuck off, will you?
Yeah. Like in real life, like his hair would be falling out in patches over her, and he'd be like sick and like bleeding out of his eyes.
Yeah, you look great. Honestly, you look great. And that's why it's a bad film, among other things.
The end.
See you next week.